Welcome back to another tutorial. I'm Hobris. Let's get started. Today we're going to talk about flying machine basics. So here's a few of the blocks that will go into a flying machine. We got pistons, we got sticky pistons, slime blocks, honey blocks, obsidian. This is generally to stop the flying machine. Glazed terracotta and observers. All right, so pistons, if you're not familiar with them, they push things. It's pretty straightforward. I want to put another one on top of this so we're not messing with any ground materials. Alright. And we're just going to use some regular blocks here. Smooth stone, as everybody knows, is my favorite. And we're going to do levers for the moment. So it pushes blocks. And we can put another one on there. And we'll push them both. Just like that. So you're going to use buttons. Alright. We're going to put another one on there. And it's going to push all three. It doesn't pull them back. Sticky pistons. Somewhat the same thing. So we're going to stick our button on here with a regular block there. It's going to push it. And it's going to pull it back. Now if we... Let's not put it that. Let's put one of those there. Let's put a block there. And we're going to push that. It's going to push them both ahead, but it's only going to pull back the one that it's stuck to. We can add another one. It's going to push all three ahead, and then push back the one that it's stuck to. Now, slime blocks behave a little bit differently. So it'll push it ahead, and it won't pull it back. That's what you'd expect, right? Now, if we put one of these here, and we'll put one of these here, and we'll stick another slime block right in there. Actually, let's put a regular block. No, let's put a sticky block in there. Why not? Alright, we're going to put another button on this side because that's where I am. It's going to push all of them forward, just like that. So it pushed that forward, but it also pushed everything stuck to it forward. Alright, I'm going to put a sticky piston down here now. Put a button on the side to control it. Alright, we're going to hit that. It's going to reach out. It's going to grab that and pull it all back because it's all connected together. Now, that's everything on the all sides of the slime block are stuck to it. But this isn't stuck to it. It does not on a slime block. Alright. Now we could put one right here. And that's going to be stuck to it too. And it's going to push forward and pull back just like that. And that's how sticky blocks and slime blocks, or sticky blocks and regular blocks work together. Just like that. And that's a piston will push forward, won't pull back. A sticky piston will push forward and will pull back. Now, let's talk about the limits. Pistons have a push limit of, or a pull limit of 12 blocks. So if we put a bunch more of these on here, we got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 slime blocks, 8, 9, 10. So we've got 10 blocks there. Let's do 11, 12. It's going to push. It's going to pull, no problem. When we add a 13th block, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to sit there and laugh at us. We take that back out of there, and it works just fine. Now, honey blocks do the same thing as slime blocks, except they don't stick to slime blocks. So we put 2 of these on, put 2 slime blocks on there. They move just fine. Put a honey block on there. It'll push just fine, but they don't stick together. So it's just gonna work independently. It's just gonna sit there. See, the same thing as we put it on the side. It's gonna slide right off. It's not gonna do anything. Now, there's an important thing with these you need to keep in mind. We're going to let's get rid of these here. We need just a little bit more room here. All right. So we're going to put another sticky block here. Sticky piston. And I'm going to kind of fly around here a little bit. All right, so we've got slime blocks on one side. We've got honey blocks on the other. They're not going to stick together. They can go independently. They can move back and forth against each other just fine. But one thing you need to be careful of is if you end up with a situation like this where you have slime blocks on one side, sticky blocks on another, but one of them ends up sticking to a block. This side will work fine. It'll move it up, pull it back. But when you do this, it's going to grab onto that. And since it's pulling back, it's going to pull that and everything else attached to it. And it's going to try to pull it back. And now, because that's attached to that, and this is sliding off, that's attached to the slime block, it's going to just keep moving. But it's not going to pull these. One of the quirks you need to watch out for when you're using both slime blocks and honey blocks, there can't be any sticky interactions between the two of them. Now, if we took that out of there, everything would work fine. Now, non-moving blocks are basically, there's a few of them. There's not many these days. There used to be a lot more, at least in Bedrock. They just don't move. They're blocks that a piston cannot push. Even if it's something we can break, there can be something that we can't move with a piston. And that works out pretty good when we want to stop a flying machine. It won't push forward. We can push that. And we can add another one, and then it just won't go anywhere because it's stopped. So if we want to stop a flying machine from going somewhere, make a stop point, we use an immovable block. In this case, I'm looking at obsidian. It can be anything else that you find that's unmoving or unmovable. I'm not going to go into all of them, but some of the obvious ones are bedrock and obsidian. And I will point out one more because it's kind of an interesting a block that can be both movable and immovable. So you can move a piston, but not when it's extended. So if you extend the piston and leave it extended, another piston can't push that. It just can't be done. So we'll show you that real quick. All right, so we're gonna extend this one, and then that won't extend. All right. Another really interesting block that's going to come in handy is glazed terracotta. And there may be some other slick blocks out there other than honey versus slime. But glazed terracotta doesn't stick to any sticky block. So I'm going to put one here. We'll put one here. We do have a sticky piston there. So we're going to move that and see what happens. It's just like it wasn't even there. It doesn't stick to it. It doesn't stick to that. It doesn't stick to that. We could put one right here. You can push things. You can push them, but they don't stick to anything. So you can push it ahead, but it won't stick to anything to pull it back. It's very important, especially to two-way flying machines. One of the big designs relies on that mechanic. Now, observers, it's kind of like an automatic, I guess you could call it an automatic button. It observes and produces a signal. We're going to make that move. We're going to do see. How about just like that? All right. So what? The red dot here, that's where the signal is produced. The smiley face is what is the observing. So if I put a block right here, it's going to observe that change and create a signal. If I remove it, it's going to observe that change and create a signal. So I'm going to put I'll put a piston right here just so we can see what happens. So that's going to produce a signal out the back of this, which is going to trigger that piston. So yeah, I put one down, it triggers it. I pull one down, it triggers it. All right, take it down and it triggers it. That's another important mechanism here. Now you can do something like this. You put it down there, and every time you change that, it's going to do that. Now keep in mind that buttons and levers don't move. Or say they can be moved, sort of. They break when you try to move them, I should say. So see, it just broke right off. I put that on there again. It's going to break. Now, if I wanted to do something a little different here, I could do trapdoor. Trapdoors, fence gates, those they don't break when you move them. So I change that. And a fence gate would do the same thing. The observer is going to observe the change. So this could be a manual activator for an observer, a movable observer. You can also just, if you want to just do it once and you want to carry a flint and steel, you could just click it. It's essentially creating a fire there that doesn't really come to existence. All right, so those are the basics of the blocks we're going to use, and a little bit of detail on some of them. So I'm going to go over here. I've got one of these really basic one-way flying machines built. Really basic. So I'm gonna take some of these blocks off to show you. So we got a regular piston there. We got a sticky piston there. So what's going to happen is I'm going to activate this. I'm going to create a signal on this observer, and it's going to shoot the signal into this slime block, which is going to power this piston, which is going to push this ahead. Now, these two slime blocks are stuck together, and anything stuck to them is going to go with it. So this observer and this piston are going to go with it. Now, because this is a sticky piston, and that's going to go with it, it's going to be over there when this observer realizes, oh, I need to make a signal. It's going to power that slime block, which powers that sticky piston, or that sticky piston, which is going to reach out and grab this slime block, which is going to pull it all ahead. And this is just going to, it's a one way. This is just going in one direction, and it's just going to do one block at a time. Actually, no, I was right. I have two observers on there. So it's going to just keep on going until it hits something, an immovable object, and then it's going to stop. Now I could continue this moving. I could remove this immovable blocks here, and I could click on that, create a signal there again, and it's just going to keep going and going and going until it's out of our simulation distance. But we're not going to do that right now. This is kind of a limited design. A one-way flying machines are a limited design. You only go one direction. You can't do repeated work, which is something we'll get into in another episode. But if you want to change directions, what you need to do is you need to change. These pistons need to be opposite. So this is a sticky piston, and we're going to replace it with a regular piston. And this is a regular piston, and we're going to replace it with a sticky piston. Now, all we have to do is activate this observer. It's going to push that one, which is going to pull that. And yeah, it's just going to it's going to go the other way. Just like so. It's just going to keep going until it hits an immovable object. which is the immovable block is going to be that obsidian there, and it's just going to stop. There are many different designs for doing this. You can make them elaborate, but really it's just a few blocks. So we're going to do a couple blocks. We're going to do a piston. We're going to turn around, do a sticky piston here. We're going to do a couple more slime blocks. Actually, let's do honey blocks over here because we can. All right. And then do this a little differently. We're going to put observers here. I'm going to place this one first because this isn't going to be able to do much because it can't push that. So I'm just going to place that one first. I'll just get that out of the way. Now, when I place one here, it's going to take off, go the other way. All right, so I'm going to place this one right here, and it's going to power that piston, and it's just going to take off. I'm not going to reverse this one and send it back, but you saw how we do this, reverse the pistons, and it'll go right back. Two-way flying machine would look something like this. Many different designs. This one requires a docking station. And this can be automated, so it just automatically turns around every time it reaches a dock. This pulls together all the different fundamentals of the blocks that I talked about. It doesn't use honey blocks, but it could. You could totally replace those slime blocks on either side with honey blocks. So what this does, when I flip this lever, it'll push this back over. So this glazed terracotta will line up with a sticky piston, so it won't be able to pull, it'll only push. This slime block will line up with the glazed terracotta, which won't stick. And this sticky piston right here will line up with this slime block, which will allow it to pull. So we'll push that, or flip that switch, it'll push it over. Those will line up just so, and it'll run the other way. Now when I flip this switch, it'll shift back so that this slime block will line up with that sticky piston and it will be able to pull it. This sticky piston will line up with that glazed terracotta, so it will be able to push. And as you'll notice, when we get down to the other end, it will run, this glazed terracotta will run into that obsidian right there and stop it, keeping it separated. That way, when it gets pushed, it won't shift everything off out of whack. That's not required on the other end because of the configuration here. So to build this, really quite simple. We're going to place 3 slime blocks. We're going to do a sticky piston right here. We're going to do glazed terracotta and a slime block. I'm going to make a space here. This is actually going to be, let's see, we want that. Oops. We want that to be a slime block. As you can see here, that's going to line up right there. We're going to put a sticky piston right there. And we're going to put the glazed terracotta on this side. We're going to round it off with a slime block there. And we're actually going to put the observer right here instead of a slime block. That works on this side because there's going to be a slime block right next to it. And we could actually do that on the other side too. And that will send it off. Now we're going to need, but we're not going to do that. We're going to need it up top, I think. No, we don't need it up top. Anyway, okay, so we're going to replace that with observer. I'm going to put an obsidian block right there to stop it when it returns. So we're going to put an observer right there. It's going to take off. Actually, not going to take off because we haven't pushed it. All right. We're going to, we're going to push this side. So we're going to set that up. We're going to push that there. And I'm not going to put a lever on this, but I could do that, but I like being able to just flip a switch real quick and not having to flip it back. So we're going to do the observer like so. That pushed it over. It's going to go down to the other end, just like so. Now I'm going to set this side up. There we go. See, and all I have to do is flip it once. I don't have to flip it twice. Okay. Now here, we just need piston. So we're going to put a piston right there. That's going to push that back over to the other side. And it'll let it go. Is that right? Oops, wrong side. We're going to push this side over. Correct? Yes. All right. Piston right there. We're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to put an observer here. When the observer is placed, it's going to trigger it and it's going to go back the other direction. That's interesting. Why did it do that? Okay, well, we're going to finish setting this up. This is the side that has to be. Why didn't I notice that before? Okay. Sticky piston. Boom, boom. Why didn't I see that? There we go. Let's get rid of that. That works fine now. All right, so what happened there was because this piston didn't have a sticky block, meaning a slime block in this case, next to it, that moved freely. It didn't move backwards when it got pushed. On this side, they both have sticky blocks next to them, so that worked just fine. I just had that configured wrong. Okay. That works right there. Just like so. There's several ways you can do this. I didn't, I don't want to take up your time going over every possible combination of flying machine. So just an example. So that's your two-way machine. This is your one-way machine. And these were your basic components. All right. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit that notification button so you don't miss a single video. Have a nice day.